Pete, when you look at just how your lineup played, do you make any changes or in terms of combinations or personnel or anything like that?
We shuffled some combinations around in game in the third, and looked at some different things. So, we've made some changes to the lineup. Not a lot. I think we're not going to overreact to a poor game, but we made some changes. I'm not going to get into them here. You'll see them in a couple hours.
When you do make lineup changes, what are you looking for each line? Is there a balance of scoring versus quote unquote grit or things like that? How do you what goes into the thought process?
Yeah. Well, I think we do the same thing you guys do. We you write down names on paper and you put guys that you think are complementary pieces to each other, and then they start to play, and you realize that a lot of times there's no rhyme or reason to what works or what doesn't work. Sometimes there's just a chemistry there that you can't explain. So you don't replace Joe Pavelski and what he does there, and I know you can go down the road of, well, okay, can you get some of the things Joe does and some other guys? I think Tyler Seguin does some of those things. There's other guys that could go there. Same on some of the other lines. So I think we'll keep going to it. This is what I do know. I know we scored 7 goals in game 2 with pretty much that lineup. We had a poor night, so you don't want to overreact to that.
Coach, the defense pair of Hakanpää and Lindell, I've heard you say several times this year that they're hard to play against. They're sort of that shutdown pair.
Yeah.
With not having the matchups, obviously, on the road, how would you sort of assess how they've been in the series? And then, when you're on the road, how do you try and get what you want out there matchup-wise?
Yeah, well, we've never chased matchups. I think we pride ourselves on being 4 lines and a 6D deep team. So there's some certain matchups we would like, but we're not going to chase them on the road. I feel comfortable with whoever we put out there can get the job done. Those guys have been pillars for us all year. It's never perfect, and you're never going to have a great night every single night. But when you look at them analytically, and then when you the more important test is seeing how players on the other team react to playing against them, which for me is the most important test. That you don't like to play against those guys, so that's the most important thing.
Pete, you had Nyquist for a little bit in San Jose a few
Yeah.
years back. So what did you learn about him, and what is his game like to you, and what he
Yeah.
brings to this team here?
Yeah, I'm a big Gus fan. He did a great job for us in San Jose in the short time I had him, and it was nice to see him healthy and back, and he looks like he hasn't lost a step, and he's an effective guy, and his game translates to the playoffs. He's smart, he's competitive, he can move up and down the lineup. I'm a big Gus fan.
What have your impressions been of Thomas Harley and Wyatt Johnston, 2 young guys just
Yeah.
making their playoff debuts?
Yeah, I think they've been great. I think neither of them looks overwhelmed. Neither of them's, gotten pushed out. Both of them have been engaged physically, which is always the test for young players at this time of year. And neither of those guys has been pushed out of any of the games we played with them in there. Both bring different things. We know what Johnny did all year, but Thomas Harley can really get up and down the ice and support the rush and break pucks out, and he's been really good.
Yeah, so a philosophy question for you in terms of most coaches in the league don't really give much lineup information like pregame playoffs. They do it every regular season all the time.
Yeah.
Paul Murray said every was game time decisions tonight in his game.
Yeah.
Maybe this is your law background too. You probably do it that way. But what's the idea behind a half hour before a game, not giving something up, knowing the team can scramble for it? I guess.
Yeah. Well, we just like to put you guys in a little bit of pain. It's our opportunity to give back a little bit. Honestly, sometimes you don't know. Like really, I know you guys think we're screwing around, but sometimes you don't know. Sometimes guys are literally game time decisions. They have to warm up. They have to get shot up. They have to do different things in order to see if they can play, and sometimes you don't know. You know, I don't think there's a ton of strategy to it or advantage, but you know, I've never been one to really keep big secrets, but you know, sometimes you just don't know.
It's a small sample size, but you lead the playoffs right now in shots that have been blocked and in shots that have missed the net. So now, is that a good thing because you have the puck and you're in the offensive zone, or do you guys have to do something different to get the puck to the goalie?
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's a surprise because Minnesota was during the season in shot blocking, right? So, you know, I think that's probably, you know, they're doing what they did all year, and that's showing up in that stat. You know, do we have to find a way to get around that shot blocking? Absolutely. But, you know, I don't think that stat should come as a surprise based on, you know, what their identity is.
Pete, with Wyatt, I was talking to him the other day, and he said that it was a coaching staff decision to have him live with the Pavelskis this year. Was it something specific to Joe, or just, you know, what did you guys see as the value of him living with a veteran?
Well, I think I've seen it over the years. You know, in San Jose, I saw Joe Thornton take players into his house. I saw Patty Marleau do it. You know, I heard the stories of Patty Marleau living with a family his first year in San Jose as an 18-year-old rookie when I was there. You know, and having coached junior for 15 years, you know, I recognize real value in that. Those kids, you know, it's the first time in the NHL. They've never lived alone. They've never cooked for themselves. They've never done their own laundry. They've never paid their own bills. They've never done any of that. So, you know, I think, you know, when I talked to Jim about it, he thought it was a great idea. They've done it before in Dallas with some players, I believe, in the past. So, you know, who do you pick to do that? I mean, for me, Pav was an easy one because one, what he represents, you know, as a person, a leader, a father, a husband, a role model, you know, all those things. I don't think you could learn from a better guy on a day-to-day basis. And two, you know, I knew Sarah Pavelski and their son Nate from my time in San Jose. You know, so I knew the family. I knew how great a situation it could be. So, and it's turned out that way. I think it's been fantastic.
Pete, overall, how would you assess where the guys' heads are at right now, heading in just with the backs against the wall a little bit on the road, Game 4?
Yeah.
And just knowing what you know about this team from the season?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think great challenge and excited to play. I mean, this is playoff hockey, right? You ride the highs and the lows of it. I don't think anyone thought this was going to be a sweep either way. And you look around the league, and you know, every series is basically almost in the same situation. So, you know, I think our group wasn't happy with our last game, and you know, excited to see our response.
Pete, since you're not keeping any big secrets today, any sense of progress on Pavelski at all in terms of like any light at the end of the tunnel in terms of maybe some point in this series later on?
Yeah, I'm optimistic. We'll see him at some point, making good progress. But I don't want to put any pressure on that timeline, you know, with what he's dealing with. But there's been some real positive steps.